Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here today. I have the pleasure of having the last talk. So I hope everyone's still awake. I'll be as quick as I can. So my name is Aileen Bright. I'm the Globe Country Coordinator in Ireland. We are a small team, just 3 of us in the team at the moment, and we coordinate the Globe programme out of the Environmental Education Unit of Antashka, and the programme is supported by the EPA. So today I'd like to talk about citizen science, and in particular our experiences with citizen science and school-age children. So we've talked about the younger folk a bit today, but really we're just focused on that primary school and secondary school age group. And we believe that through citizen science, there are many benefits for the students involved, both just a sense of well-being, but improvements, in the nature and environment surrounding their schools as a result. So first of all, for those of you who don't know anything about GLOBE, it's an international science and education program. It's coordinated out of the USA and it's sponsored by NASA. So there's over 120 countries around the world that are members of GLOBE, and it functions by a bilateral agreement, an intergovernmental bilateral agreement. So we implement GLOBE here in Ireland, and there are many different, citizen science activities available through GLOBE. And you can see, just some of the categories that we have there. So atmosphere, pedosphere, which is soil, biosphere, and hydrosphere, and of course, the Earth as a system. So through that and through those protocols, they're developed by NASA scientists. Science is good. And we support those protocols with our own protocols in Ireland. So basically, we started here in Ireland back in 2018 with our first campaign kicking off in 2019. And we worked with just 30 schools in Ireland on the theme of air quality. And since then, everything's grown due to the appetite of citizen science amongst school groups. People are really enthusiastic for citizen science. So now we work across a whole range of different themes. We've moved from air quality, which we still do today, but we've worked now on weather, climate, phenology around trees in particular, so green up and green down. We've worked a lot on rainfall and flooding and climate resilience associated with that, even surface temperature, the urban heat island effect, and water quality. So kind of, what Basil was just mentioning there, we run our own citizen science campaign with the help of Law Pro occasionally with schools around the country. So in general, our model is we send the kits to schools, so they're free of charge for the schools to take part. And we provide the teachers with training, and we interact with the students as well through expert webinars during the year. We really rely on experts to come join our webinars to help bring that kind of critical, cutting edge science to the students. And it really adds that validity to the students. They feel like people care, there's other people working on this. We're very grateful for that support. We have NASA scientists joining us. We have EPA members. We have, local authorities, climate action officers, a whole range. And we're very grateful for that support. We really encourage the students to not just go outside and explore their local environment, but to actually make assessments to try and understand how healthy is my local, whatever it is they're studying. And then we encourage, the next part of that was thinking about what they can do to make changes in their environment. And then with the help of their local community and even the GLOBE community, how to implement some of those changes along with experts. We also really want to make our resources as current and topical as possible. So we focus on certain areas, and we try and address climate change through our citizen science. So along with doing that, you can see on the left-hand side, you have the areas highlighted that are most urgently required for attention. So that would be the area of health that we're discussing today, infrastructure and ecosystems. So we try to work around that when we're dealing with the students and the teachers to try and keep that knowledge up to date. Okay, so what I want to show you now is just a couple of our campaigns that we run. So we run 5 every year. And we'd work with around 300 schools now on a yearly basis. And so I'm just going to show you just our experience. So this is not high-level science that we've been talking about so far. This is really implementing citizen science on the ground. So we have one campaign, it's called How Spongy is Your School? So it's kind of a catchy title. It's all to do with rainfall and flooding and even puddle mapping around your school, which really appeals to students, especially the primary school students. So for the rainfall aspect, we use a NASA protocol around measuring rainfall, and we send out those rain gauges to the students in advance. And then they go outside and they start to think about their environment and think about the land cover around their school and how that affects how the water drains in their school. So it's similar to what maybe someone from the local authorities might do and think about, but we're bringing it down to the students, and they're the ones that are going out, they're mapping their schools, they're thinking about drainage. And the whole idea, for them is to keep that concept of slowing the flow and try and slow down that drainage into our rivers and ultimately out to the sea. What else? I should just mention this, because I don't want to mention just one group, but Med Erin have been fantastic, along with NASA, in providing that expert guidance to the school for this particular campaign. So I just want to show one example. So we'd have about 50 schools take part in this campaign in particular. It's a newer one that we introduced last year. But this is Rockford Manor School. It's a Dublin school. And really, I just want to show, what happens when the students take part in a citizen science campaign. Because, and I've said this before, but when I started working with Globe, I was kind of focused on the science, to be honest. And I was always thinking, like, what kind of data are we going to get back here? And, what are we going to do with those numbers? But then, what I discovered through running this program was what goes on in the schools is so much bigger and greater than that I had imagined. And you can see all those smiling faces on the top left, but they are so proud because they got outside, they made their own observations. They're talking to NASA about their observations. They have ownership. They are the local experts now. And not only that, but in some cases they received funding from Law Pro, the small packages of funding, and Caro, and they've been able to make changes in their own school. So this is huge. So they made the measurements, they discussed their results with experts, and now they have the funding to make changes. So you can see on the left, we have a nice permeable pathway that they developed in the back of their school. And then we also have a really nice rain planter. And that's just a really small example. There's schools that have really done a lot, but they're just little pockets of funding available to them. And this only encouraged them even more. They are a proud bunch in the schools where they're able to do this. So another campaign that we developed last year is called How Healthy is My Local River? You can imagine, for this one, we send out a kit to the schools in advance, again, provide that training, but it's a little bit more difficult to implement on the ground because now, you need the teacher to leave the school grounds with a bunch of students. So it could be a small group, it could be a whole class. And it's a bit of an endeavor. There's hurdles there around, health and safety and even just getting the timetable right. But, this year we had 50 schools sign up for this campaign, and they really did an amazing job going out there and assessing the health of their local rivers. They used Globe protocols on water quality to test just for temperature and pH, nutrient pollution. They looked at land cover in the area, and it's a big spread of schools, right? So some are in rural areas, some are in urban areas. What happens next is really nothing to do with us. We encourage them, but we don't, we're not monitoring this. But they really take that next step around raising awareness around water, fresh water in this case, and their local catchment with their school community, and then even with the greater community. Parents are involved. Suddenly there's a local counsellor in the school, and everything gets kicked off. So it's really fascinating to see what can happen through citizen science. And another example, just in this case for this river ecosystem campaign, is a school from Cork. This is Mount St. Michael's School. It's a secondary school. They went out into their local catchment and they decided that they were going to do this on multiple different rivers in their catchment. So, our guidance would be just go to your nearest stream, but they obviously took it to the next level, identified 2 different streams, did all of the analysis like was described in the slide previous, and they made a discovery that there was one river that was, quite pristine and another river that was particularly poor. They really took this again, and communicated to their local community, involved a local counsellor. They have some lovely words there. So they're their words that they were using. Get outdoors, get to know your nearest stream, look for indicator species, raise awareness in your community, make a noise, you will be heard. If we don't care about our waterways, who will care? We didn't give them those words. That came from the heart. They're talking about indicator species, and they're at school. And that's just a great leap, I think, for bringing the good, that cutting edge science you're bringing to schools, and they're taking it on board. So, I mean, like I said, we've talked a lot about nature connectedness and a lot of concepts here today, but I think you really, can't emphasize enough the benefits that students can get just from stepping outside the door, getting outside, just making those observations, have them validated by experts and improved. The guidance is improved by experts. And then through these small grants, being able to implement changes on their school grounds, I think it's fabulous. I think I'd love to see more and more at schools. I mean, that's the goal. I really do believe there's just multiple benefits on all the things we talked about today: well-being, environment, everything within the school improves. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say today. Thank you so much for your time.